Hey guys, before we get started, I just wanted to take a second to tell you about the Muscle Hustle. It is a super fun grappling related game that you can get on your mobile device that allows you to collect, train, and promote a completely original roster of wrestlers. And they all have unique abilities that you can combine and train up and equip new gear. And you build a team of these guys to take on other teams and challenge for championships. It's really, really fun. There's also PvP stuff. I haven't even touched that yet. I'm just having so much fun with the single player stuff. There's a whole campaign where you go around all the different territories trying to win the world titles. Really, really fun game to play. And just because you listen to the B+, the great guys and girls over at the Muscle Hustle app are going to give you some fantastic rewards. So if you enter in the code the B+ when you play from the promo code in the settings menu, you're going to get 25 gold to go towards building up your team and training your team. It's going to give you a leg up against the competition. So click the link in the show notes, download the app, enter the code the B+, and I'll see you in the ring.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Hold one, arm drag.
You're not good at this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon.
You just made the list.
Oh my God!
Sorry, no speak English.
Dummy. Goodbye and good night. Hold two, arm bar.
It's still real to me, damn it!
Dummy.
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
Hold three, Lamas covers, three-handle family Gradunzo.
Mamma mia!
And now, Unchained.media presents the B+ Podcast with your host, Greg Unchained.
It's me, Austin! It was me all along, Austin!
Number four, arm bar.
I will never retire!
I still got 200 more. I got 200 more holes to list.
All right, fellow B+ players, welcome to the B+ Podcast. That may be the last time you hear me say that. I'll explain more about that later, but welcome. It's Friday. You know what that means. Aussie Grapps Friday. It's our favourite day here at the B+ Podcast. I am, of course, your host, Greg Unchained, here to break down all the Aussie wrestling goodness that happened throughout the week. Also, of course, every week we like to sit down with an Aussie grappler or grappler adjacent person, but this week, sitting down with just one was not enough. 1 isn't enough, 2 isn't enough, 3 isn't enough. I need 5. I sat down with pretty much the entire Rampage Dojo. All the young boys there. We got Tyler Trench, Corey Adams, Rat Daddy, Nick Golfis, and Tommy Knight all sat down at the Rampage Dojo to talk shop, I suppose, just to talk about Rampage, to talk about the direction it's heading, live streaming, all that stuff is touched on. You can hear it shortly. But first, let's take a look at what's happening this week in Aussie wrestling news. Once again, it's been a huge week for me personally. Kids starting school. Of course, we had the huge Royal Rumble week. I had 4 shows to preview for this weekend. There's been a lot going on. So if I miss anything, I do apologize. I try my best to get across everything. And I've got something new coming up that hopefully will help us really make sure we're engaging with everything that's happening in the Australian wrestling community. But for now, let's take a look at what I've got this week for Aussie Grapps News. Starting off overseas with our Aussie Grappler news for guys that are in other countries at the moment, Mark Davis has been announced, or he's qualified for a 16 karat gold tournament in WXW in Germany. It's a long-running tournament, very prestigious, and this is a big thing for him. He's talked about it. The first show he was ever on when he made his debut, he was debuting alongside, there was Chris Hero was on the same show, and backstage he was talking to Chris Hero about the tournament he'd just won over in Germany, and Mark Davis has wanted to do it ever since, and he has qualified for 16 karat gold. So congratulations, Mark Davis. It's amazing to see this stuff happening for you after all. I remember seeing Mark Davis at PWA shows many moons ago, and he's always been a great dude. So I'm really, really happy for Mark Davis. Of course, he's tag teaming over in England with Kyle Fletcher as Aussie Open, and they have also been announced for some big things this week. PWG 200, the 200th show for Pro Wrestling Guerrilla over in California. Aussie Open are announced. They're making their debut with PWG, taking on the best friends Chucky T and Trent. It's not going to be long before Aussie Open end up as the PWG Tag Team Champions. I'm very confident in that. They are title collectors at this point. They are one of the best tag teams in the world. I'm fully expecting them to be snapped up by AEW if WWE don't swoop in and get their hands on them first. Of course, with the Progress connection, it's very possible that WWE are looking at them as well, but AEW looking to make a huge tag division. I'm hoping that Aussie Open gets snapped up soon. Sorry, Brits. I know you guys don't like your scene being raided, and I know that these guys have fled Australia to go and be with you guys over there, but I want the biggest things possible for my boys, and so I'm pulling for them to wind up in a major company as soon as possible, because they are, hands down, one of the best tag teams in the country. One of the best tag teams in the world today. So, big props to Aussie Open for getting booked with PWG. It's the super indie, right? PWG is where all the eyes are, so that's fantastic and really proud for them. There's a lot of Aussies working in PWG now. We've got our PWG 3 is becoming our PWG 5. It's awesome. On the topic of individuals that I can't imagine not being signed by bigger companies in the very near future, Shazza McKenzie is heading to the United States of America. We talked to her about it a couple of weeks ago. You can roll back in the archives to hear that interview. It was the first interview of the year on our Aussie Grapps show, so it should be pretty easy to find. And she's headed over to the States for a couple of months, and one big date that has been announced this week, April 27th, Shazza McKenzie returns to Chikara for Fright Night, which is huge for her, obviously, and being a big Chikara fan. It's huge for me. Being a huge Chikara fan, I'm looking forward to seeing her on Chikaratopia once again. I love the way they referred to her in the advertisement. The effervescent Aussie ray of sunlight, Shazza McKenzie returns. I really like that. It's the effervescent ray of sunlight. I think PWA and MCW and stuff all need to pick up on that and start marketing her as our very own ray of sunlight. I don't know why. I just thought it was really cool because she's that bubbly baby face, and it's a really good description of what she does. So also over in the United States, I missed this one last week. I should have talked about this last week. I apologize. MCW have announced a big joint show in the United States. Well, they didn't announce it. PCW Ultra announced it. It's called Wrestle Summit. It's taking place on the 29th of March this year. PCW Ultra is a prominent West Coast indie, and they announced that they are hosting this Wrestle Summit show in March, which there's going to be representatives for, of course, PCW Ultra, Defy, Impact Wrestling, Wrestling Revolver, and of course our very own Melbourne City Wrestling. All will have representatives at the event. There isn't much more info as of yet, no announcements as to who will be making the trip, but just knowing that MCW have representation there in some form or fashion is pretty damn cool. I'm hoping Lochy Hendricks goes as part of his farewell tour. He goes and has a hello tour after his farewell tour. That's what I'm hoping. That's my fantasy booking. I want Lochy Hendricks to go over to LA on his trip towards Uncle Paul, maybe go from coast to coast from LA across to Orlando. That would be fantastic. And then if we find out that he's not really signed and he gets turned away at the door, that would be amazing. I'm just fantasy booking in my head. I'm hoping that Lochy Hendricks is a part of this Wrestle Summit that's taking place over in Los Angeles. A little bit closer to home, though. I came across a company this week, thanks to the Facebook group, What Would Gorilla Monsoon Do? Big shout out to, I think it was Dan Leonard who made this post, and it really caught my eye. Awa Films over in New Zealand are looking for extras and wrestlers for an upcoming wrestling series that they're filming, and they've done some trailers and sizzle reels and stuff, which I'll put in the show notes. This one's called Colonial Combat, and it's a comedic look at the colonial history of New Zealand explored with wrestling. It's a completely new take on professional wrestling, flipping the script on its head and being like, look, we can't compete with WWE, right? They're WWE. Let's just reimagine entirely what a wrestling show can be. And in a similar vein to Lucha Underground is the vibe I'm getting, except not serious, far more hilarious. So I got on the phone with one of the creative minds behind Colonial Combat to talk about just briefly to talk about, because I'd already had an interview recorded, so I just got him on the phone quickly to talk about what we can expect and also what he's looking for with the casting call that they've put out. So if you're a wrestler, this is one that you want to listen to. All right, joining me now by the magic of the internet, all the way from New Zealand, Julian Arahanga from Awa Films. How are you, Julian?
I'm really good, thanks, Greg, and I'm really happy to be on the show. Thanks for making contact. We love wrestling, and we want to put a new spin on the whole thing.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you are one of the creative minds behind Colonial Combat. You want to give us a quick rundown of what exactly that is?
Well, Colonial Combat is wrestling set in colonial New Zealand, a time that essentially was like the Wild West, but in the South Pacific.
Right. And so it's a historical wrestling series, which is just the craziest thing to think about, but it's obviously taking a few creative liberties with the actual history.
We're totally taking lots of liberties. We're taking liberties with the wrestling, and we're modifying that. We're taking liberties with New Zealand history, but somewhere within, that liberty, those liberties that we're taking, there are actually some home truths, and we just find that when things are presented in a humorous way and in a more fantastical way, human beings are a lot more open to learning and accepting, things of the past, and sometimes things that might be hurtful.
Yeah, absolutely. Look, one of my favorite political commentaries in the world is South Park, right? Like you can actually have comedy that makes you think, and so you're touching on sort of deep socio-political historical themes. With, I mean, I saw on the trailer and stuff, they're fighting over the land in some of this. Is this right?
Even today in New Zealand, there's still big issues over land and how land was got, and the colonizing of New Zealand, and what was sort of done legit and what wasn't. And those discussions and battles go, from the pub right through to the highest courts in the land, and everything else, that was a part of that as well. And so, there are places and forums where, you can have those formal legal discussions. What we wanted to do was open it up in a space where people can have a more fun way to experience those things of the past, because, a lot of it we can't undo. Yeah. And there's no reason for everybody to feel so guilty and bad about things that they were out of their control, but it's just more an acknowledgement of everything and what we do from here.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fully on board with that. I think it sounds awesome, and what a crazy way to explore it all with wrestling. Now, I know we're a bit, like, we're not exactly close to seeing this come to fruition fully yet. We've got a bit of footage that we're going to put in the show notes, but you're putting out a casting call at the moment, yeah?
Yeah, we're looking for wrestlers, and we're looking for an Australian wrestler in particular. The beauty of colonial New Zealand and that early contact period is people came from Norway because they were like searching for whales.
Yeah.
Because whales was a big thing, and we got characters coming from Norway, and then in the wrestling ring they become a Viking.
Right.
We've got people who've come from Scotland, from Ireland, an Irish scrapper, an Aussie battler.
Yeah.
So we've got all of those different types of people that really did exist. And so that's where we're actually keeping true to history, because everybody who's in the show, there was actually somebody like them that arrived in this country.
For sure.
But where we're twisting it is kind of, their true, what their personality is and how they acted. We don't really know, but it is a little. We are building a little bit cliche, but that's the whole fun experience of it. And like I said, underlying all of it, there is some depth.
Yeah.
For every character.
Yeah. Absolutely. So leaning into the stereotypes a little for the comedic value, but then exploring real issues through those characters. So I know there are some wrestlers occasionally that listen to the show. So if there are some Aussie wrestlers listening that maybe want to be a part of this, where can they find you and get in touch with you?
All you need to do is go to the Awa Films Facebook page, or go to our website, which is awa.co.nz. Very simple, awa.co.nz. On there you can find contact details. On the Facebook page, there's actually a call for wrestlers, and in that promo, underneath that promo, there's a link that'll take you to a Google Docs form where you can put all your details of who you are, what your name is. You can even upload a photo of yourself. You can upload or add a link to a video of yourself in action, and that all gets sent to us in a spreadsheet, and we've got everyone's details. And once we've got your details, we'll be following up on that.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes of it. I'm definitely looking forward to the show. It sounds fantastic. Best of luck with putting it all together. I know that, just putting together a wrestling show can be an experience. So putting together a whole TV show must be even more terrifying and crazy. But we'll have to have a deeper chat closer to when this thing goes down. But just wanted to get it out there so that people hear that this is coming and that they can get in touch if they want to be a part of it. So thank you so much for coming by.
Excellent, Greg, and thank you for the airtime. And just want to mihi, which is to greet all of the wrestlers and wrestling fans throughout Australia. We're going to keep you guys updated with our progress. We really think that there's something in this show, not just for New Zealanders, but for people all around the world. And we're going to do our best to make it the greatest spectacle it can be.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man.
Thank you, man.
So there you have it, Colonial Combat. They are looking for an Aussie grappler. If you are an Aussie grappler, put in your submission to, head to the Facebook, like the page, send them, fill out that Google Doc form that they mentioned, and possibly we'll see you on New Zealand television in the near future. It looks like a hilarious series. Like I said, I'll put the trailer that they sent me in the show notes. I'm very excited about this. I like new forms of storytelling in wrestling, and anyone, I'm a huge fan of Lucha Underground for what they've done for wrestling and just how they challenge the perception of the status quo. I'm a big fan of that. And Underworld Wrestling, closer to home, they do a lot of challenging the status quo as well. I'm a big fan of that as well. Really looking forward to this Colonial Combat and seeing what becomes of it. So I'll be paying close attention to that one. Meanwhile, World Series Wrestling are plugging along, making huge announcements, huge amounts of Aussie announcements. It started with the Four Nations and the Babes, then the Velocities, then we've got Sid Parker, Gabriel Eros. It was weird seeing Gabriel Eros announced without Eli Theseus. I'm not sure what's happening there, but Gabriel Eros is coming to World Series Wrestling this time around. Lots of people making their first-time debuts on the World Series Wrestling cards. I'm a bit, you guys know me. Conspiracy Greg comes out to play a little, and I'm looking at all these people that, Ricky South is returning. Just looking at all these names that they've got on this upcoming tour, and there's two explanations, but of course, Conspiracy Greg sees it and thinks, this looks like a scouting trip for someone. We know SCU are coming. We know All Elite Wrestling have mentioned Australia before, and the Young Bucks just seem to be popping up everywhere SCU pop up, right? So is this a scouting trip? Could we see one of those surprise appearances from the Young Bucks or from Cody, from Adam Page? Could we see that? It's entirely possible. I would not put it out of the realms of possibility with the AEW money being thrown around and what they're doing, and the names being added. Zach Sabbath's been added. Matt Diamond's been added. There's a lot of names. This looks like it's the most stacked. Now, there are 5 dates, so of course they need more talent. But it looks like the most stacked Aussie roster they've ever had. I'm very excited for this World Series Wrestling Tour, kicking off March 7th in my hometown, Adelaide, at the HQ Complex. Very excited to get around it. Head to worldserieswrestling.com, pick up your tickets. You never know. You never know. Conspiracy Greg says the Bucks are going to be there. Now, Conspiracy Greg goes all over the place, right? The Earth is flat, but also hollow. It's completely contradictory. So don't trust Conspiracy Greg, but take it into consideration. I think there is every possibility that this is a scouting trip, and that's why we're seeing so many names announced as debuts and as returns, and people, Sid Parker invading, all this sort of stuff. It's very exciting time to be an Aussie wrestling fan, and I'm excited for this World Series Wrestling tour. Like I said, biggest Aussie roster I've ever seen. Lots of internationals. You got Brody King there. You got Robbie Eagles is the champion, but you got Brody King and Marty Skrull coming there, the tag team champions, Villain Enterprises, SCU, as I mentioned, Bandito and Flamita. Holy crap, Bandito is a star. The matches that these guys are going to have for us here in Australia are, I'm really, really looking forward to this tour, so get around it, guys. In other news locally, of course, PWA have announced that they are starting a Twitch channel. What exactly is going to be on this Twitch channel, I'm not sure. I'm not a big Twitch user. I signed up for Twitch because Impact have gone on to Twitch, and I follow Impact, and now I follow PWA as well. I don't know if they're going to be putting matches up regularly. I think they'll be looking at having people stream gaming stuff. Like, that's what Twitch is generally used for. I know Mick Moretti does some Twitch streaming of his own, so perhaps he's going to move some of his Twitch activity to the official PWA Twitch service. I don't know. I've hit follow. I've enabled notifications. I'll keep you guys posted with it. If anything cool comes out of it, I will, of course, let you know. Meanwhile, also in Sydney, Wrestling Go are having an awesome week. They have begun uploading matches from Swan Song in a similar fashion to one of my locals, Riot City Wrestling. Matches have been just quietly going up throughout the week from the Wrestling Go Swan Song event. These matches are not getting enough views as I look at the YouTube count, so everyone needs to get around these. More easily accessible Aussie Grapps is a grand thing. It's something we should support. We should definitely support those who are making the effort to make Aussie wrestling more accessible, so big props to Wrestling Go for that. Also this week, Wrestling Go announced that Eman, the Kid Narazman from Malaysia, who of course I spoke to last week, you can go back in the archives and listen to that interview if you wish. He's moved to Australia. He's moved to Australia to study, and he's looking to wrestle, and he is making his Wrestling Go debut up at the Go Olympic Games on April 27th there in New South Wales. So awesome to hear that people are starting to book Eman already. I'm a huge fan. I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do within the Wrestling Go-verse, as it were, and also within the wider Australian wrestling community. Someone else we know is at least in talks with Eman the Kid, Iron Fist Pro. When I spoke to Eman last week, he mentioned that he had talked to them, but he has yet to be announced at all, so I'm not sure what's happening there. Iron Fist Pro have had a big week, though, this week, so it's understandable, of course, if some things are sort of taking more time. The Rascals, unfortunately, had to pull out of the big second show, Way of the Fist, due to scheduling issues. When I spoke to Aiden, he gave me nothing. He's just like, look, I'm working on a replacement, man. This shit happens. So I was hoping to see something like the Heart Foundation or some other combination of the Strong Hearts members, since Iron Fist do have that strong Asian influence on their product. But what I wasn't expecting was for them to go the other way in the Strong Hearts and Dragon Gate divide and strike a deal with Dragon Gate Pro Wrestling to bring Shun Skywalker out to our shores. Holy shit. The wording of the announcement as well clearly made it seem like this is some kind of arrangement between the two companies. They specifically thanked Dragon Gate for allowing Shun to come, so more so than just bringing over an individual independent contractor. I'm thinking, I know that Aiden is very big on forming relationships with other companies, and that's something he is actively aiming to do, so to see this happen, I'm very excited. I'm hoping we get to see more Dragon Gate crossover in the future. We know Dragon Gate are not opposed to working with foreign brands as well, so this is really, potentially, really, really cool. Speaking of the heavy Asian influence as well with Iron Fist Pro, almost buried under the Shun Skywalker news is the fact that the Prophet of Pain, Shaukat, is coming. I talk a lot about the Southeast Asian scene and how we need to work more with these guys, and there's a ton of talent over there just waiting to be seen. I know the entire mission with Iron Fist Pro as well is to shine a light on unseen and underappreciated talent, so I'm super happy to see that they have eyes on the Southeast Asian scene and they're bringing over Shaukat. That's a great choice. I'm very much looking forward to seeing him live. Eman tweeted out, my god, this guy follows me everywhere. I hope he brings a few MyPW shirts with him. Showcat, if you're listening, bring some MyPW shirts. I want to get myself one of them MyPW shirts. Over in Melbourne, Melbourne City Wrestling have announced Glow in Real Life, which they've abbreviated now to G.Earl. Girl 3. I love it. Love it so much. Glow in Real Life 3 has been announced, taking place on March the 3rd, just one day after Wrestling Go's You Go Girl all-women's show. So we're getting a full weekend of women's wrestling across Sydney and New South Wales. I'm sure we can expect a lot of talent crossover there, I hope. One talent announced along with the announcement of the show was Candy Lee from New Zealand. Beyond stoked to see her getting a booking, essentially, for Melbourne City Wrestling. That's going to be one to keep an eye on for sure. We know that Tali got booked at the Glow show last month, or the last Glow show that they had, and then last month she made her debut on Melbourne City Wrestling proper, so this could be big things for Candy Lee. Very excited. She is a B+ favourite for sure, so very much looking forward to seeing her on those Glow shows. Also in women's wrestling news, New Valhalla Wrestling have announced their next show, Freya's Gift. Freya, of course, for those of you who don't know, I'm a huge mythology nerd. I study narratology. It's kind of my bag. I love stories and the effects that they have on people's lives. So Freya is a big part of the Norse mythology stories. She was a part of the Vanir tribe that got absorbed into the Aesir tribe after a big war. It's a whole to-do. Famously, of course, she is the wife of Odin, who I'm sure you've all heard of. He was in some Marvel movie. She's a goddess of love. Highly appropriate for this time of year as we approach Valentine's Day. It would have been great if this show was on Valentine's Day weekend. I would have popped hard for something like that, but alas, Valentine's comes late this year. The goddess of love, Freya, bestows her blessings on New Valhalla on March 9th, and the newest chosen to join the ranks of the Valkyries in New Valhalla are Tali and Jessica Troy. Tali, of course, is a name who is on everyone's lips. She's showing up absolutely everywhere, and Jessica Troy, one of the best women's wrestlers in the country, bar none. Really excited for this show. It's looking fantastic, and I'm looking forward to more announcements soon. I'm hoping it also has a very strong female focus, which I'm sure, given the title Freya's Gift, I'm sure it will. A few more announcements around the country. Craven is coming to Melbourne for Adrenaline Pro. Hit the Lights. Of course, Craven, a former guest of the show as well. You can go back in the archives. Talia, a former guest, you can go back in the archives. We talk to everyone. Go back in the archives. Listen to the shows. They're awesome. Craven's coming to Melbourne for Adrenaline Pro. Hit the Lights. February 6th. Keep an eye on Adrenaline Pro socials to see what's coming for Craven on that one. A little closer to home for me, Richie Taylor is returning to Adelaide Championship Wrestling. I am very high on Richie Taylor. His look, his style, his whole package, I am here for it, and I'm very excited to see him making his way to my local for the March 23rd show, Rise to Glory. Biggest announcement for the week, though, it probably has to go to Hunter Valley Wrestling, once again, kicking off the year with a sonic fucking boom, announcing James Storm for their March 23 event, which, we talked about that last week, but now a second night has been added. Big announcement this week, a second night has been added, March 24th. It's a Saturday show, it's a Sunday show. It's been announced Brooksy vs. Slater, taking place on the Sunday afternoon. So Adam Brooks, Damian Slater are going to be in attendance. We've got to think James Storm will still be in attendance. All this is in addition, of course, to the night before the Sunday show. Slade Mercer, Damian Slater, James Storm in a triple threat. Alex Titan, Gavin McGavin, champion versus champion. I mean, look, these shows look huge. I'm considering flying up for them if I can afford it. Big things look set for Hunter Valley Wrestling in 2019. I'm very excited for it. Meanwhile, Lochy Hendricks' farewell tour continues this week. Lochy stepped afoul of Elliot Sexton by stealing his joke. We also get a look behind the scenes at some Wrestle Rock happenings. Uncle Beej makes an appearance. I'm loving this farewell tour series. Like I said, I hope it makes its way over to LA as part of this Melbourne City Wrestling deal, because I think that would be hilarious to see him, be hating on all the places he goes while he's here. It's kind of like the SCU shtick, right? Like he's doing his farewell tour of Australia, but he hates Australian fans, right? And so he's going to go over and then he's going to try to endear himself to American fans. I think it would be hilarious to see, and I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes either way. Even if it doesn't go the way I'm predicting, I'm looking forward to seeing where it goes. I have reached out, of course, to Lochy Hendricks. I am in communications with his social media manager, David Geller, to get him on the show. He is, of course, a superstar, a soon-to-be worldwide superstar at this point, and it can be hard to pin down, but we have a working date. We've got it penciled in the calendar. Lochy Hendricks' interview should be coming soon as part of his farewell tour. Really looking forward to talking to Lochy and asking him the hard questions. You know, that's what we do here. So in other YouTube and Facebook video news and what have you, Jack Edwards of the Taylor King Task Force. Taylor King, of course, friends with Lochy Hendricks, sent out his well wishes when he heard that Uncle Paul had signed him up. But Jack Edwards of the Taylor King Task Force, he found where Taylor King is staying over in California, sent him a care package, just letting the child star know that he wants him to come back for EPW Hot Summer's Night. Told him about Gorgeous Gary's claims that he's going to have the biggest and best entrance in EPW history, and Taylor King, he did not like that. So he is coming back for Hot Summer's Night this weekend. EPW Invitational Final will take place. Gorgeous Gary Schmidt, Taylor King, the prestigious prize on the line. Is the jet lag going to get to Taylor King? Is the return from an injury going to get to Taylor King? We know he's sort of descended into a little bit of darkness in his mind. He started smoking again. But he's got his vaporizer back now, and he's on his way back for EPW Hot Summer's Night this weekend. Something else that'll take place this weekend, Jonah Rock's last match in the country for WrestleRampage. I went out last week. I went out to the Rampage Dojo, and I spoke with some of the young stars of that roster in a what I'm calling a Rampage Dojo Young Boy Roundtable. So I'm going to let you guys listen in on that now, and then after the interview, I'll hit you up with everything happening this weekend across the country and some big B+ news.
Promotional consideration paid for by the following.
January is here, and we are fast approaching WrestleMania season. Royal Rumble and the road to WrestleMania are around the corner, so the time to dilly-dally is past us. If you want to experience WrestleMania live, and who doesn't, let's be honest, you deserve it. The best and really the only way to do it is with All Aussie Travelers. All Aussie Travelers are new to the wrestling travel package game, but they are veterans at travel, and they have put together a package that cannot be beaten. For less than $7,500, All Aussie Travelers are going to send you to New York, with return flights, airport transfers, full accommodation, and tickets to the WWE Hall of Fame, NXT pre-show party, NXT TakeOver, WrestleMania, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown Live, and more. The coolest part about these packages is that for NXT TakeOver, Raw, and SmackDown, you are going to be seated in your own private VIP suite, normally not available to the public, but All Aussie Travelers have you covered, man. They got this locked down. It has its own bar, it has its own bathroom access, and all the luxuries that a VIP box comes with, not least of which, of course, an incredible view for everything happening in the ring. All of this for under $7,500. They're practically giving these packages away, man. You'd be crazy not to check it out. So head over to All Aussie Travelers on Facebook. The link is in the show notes. And tell them that the B+ sent you. And let's go watch WrestleMania in style. Hey guys, just a reminder, if you want to hear all of these wonderful B+ podcast episodes completely ad-free, make sure you head over to Patreon or Podbean, where we are the featured podcast this week. You can subscribe for as little as $1 a month up to $10 a month, where anything you want to help us with, it really helps out. It's going to help us grow the site. It's going to help us redesign some things, and everything that we get through this and through the advertising as well is all going straight back into the podcast so that we can get Aussie Grapps out there for the rest of the world to hear about, for the rest of the world to see, so we can grow this mission of watch global, support local, and build indie wrestling. So if you want to be a part of that and get some really cool rewards like call-in shows, bonus episodes, ad-free like I mentioned, then head over to patreon.com/theb+ and subscribe today.
Who listens to AM radio?
We do now.
I'm going to pick up some.
Well, people are listening now. I've hit go. So all the 90-year-old grad.
Yeah, we're not live. We are live.
Sorry, guys.
I just talked about picking up.
I think Tommy's pretty thirsty, ladies, if you
slide in.
For the 90-year-old grandmas.
Fucking
anything,
really. For anything and everything, brother.
Tommy Night, 1995 or 95.
Alright, so listeners, we're doing something different. As you can tell, there's a lot of voices in the room. I'm still getting my head around interviewing one person at a time, and I'm joined by not one, not two, not three, not four, but 5 people. So we're looking at we're calling it the Rampage Dojo Roundtable, I guess. Probably the
rookie roundtable.
Rookie roundtable, young boys.
Are we really rookies? I mean, it's not
Yes.
our first year. Isn't that like is that like not a qualification that's
You got
required?
like rookie, sophomore.
Exactly.
Tommy Ego.
Tommy Ego is not in the. Like, I've still got my shirt on, alright? It's not in the equation yet.
So the voices you're hearing, I'm just going to go around the table. We've got the Heartthrob Corey Adams.
Hey.
We've got Corndog Tyler Trench.
I'm here too.
The Sniper Nick Golfis.
Hello.
The Prodigy Tommy Knight.
How's it going?
And Rat Daddy.
Hi.
Yeah. So I want to start with you, Rat Daddy, because that's all right.
Yeah.
Because I get this I get this a lot. The gimmick, it's like rat. Are you a literal rat? Are you a daddy to rats?
I haven't really worked it out. I'm just kind of seeing how I go.
Question.
I don't think anyone's worked it out.
Yeah. No, I'm not sure. I just really like the name and put it together and just seeing where it goes.
Yeah. Because you made big debut last week at Melbourne City Wrestling.
Yeah.
Well, as we're talking, people are listening to this at a different date. Time, it's a flat circle. But you, debut at MCW, and even on the hashtag, people are like, Rat Daddy. Like, it's...
Yeah, it's pretty confusing stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know where I go with that name.
But the Rampage crowd are into it, man.
I think it makes for a good chant. It's easy to chant. So
Yeah.
they got around it pretty quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, I guess I normally start with, it's daunting with 5 people here. I normally start with like, how long have you been wrestling? How'd you get into it and stuff? So,
That's pretty easy.
Most of us
We all
started at the
started
same time.
probably within a 3-month period. We all
Except
really
Josh.
started.
I was first. I started May. Oh, sorry. But I was. What was that? May 2016?
Well, I don't know why you're looking it up.
I don't know. I thought you'd be able to help me
No,
out.
yeah, no worries.
16? No, 17. So.
No, we were well after him.
Yeah, okay.
No.
So me and
No, I was 17 then.
Yeah,
Sorry,
it would have been May 17.
Yeah.
Because me and Corndog, we were at the same tryout. We didn't know each other, but we were August
Yeah, August.
2017.
No, so I was May 2017.
Yeah, I had the...
No, it's 2016.
Yeah, I debuted... No, it was 2016 because I debuted in
There you go,
2017.
2016.
So I was right then.
I started my tryout in November, and then the show started for me in February 2017. So it was
only a few months turnaround.
Yeah, it was about 3 months.
The Prodigy.
Yeah.
That was specifically for me, and you weren't long after that, were you?
Yeah, well, I tried out in December, and then
Yeah, so you would have tried after me.
right. And so you guys all started with Rampage, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. And the Rampage Dojo, I mean, we're here right now. It's like a full performance gym.
Yeah.
I mean, originally we weren't here. We were at a different facility.
St. Clair.
St. Clair Rec Centre, but it got knocked down, so we had to move here. But we generally have access to a lot of the equipment when the people who normally go here aren't.
We try and stay out of the way of people that pay to be here for the gym specifically, but
we're just sort of at the back of this gym, and then we can use the equipment when other people aren't.
Usually by the time our training sessions start, everyone's gone anyway. So
Everyone leaves because we're loud.
Exactly.
We bump it in the ring.
Yeah.
But usually once we start training, by the time our cardio starts, is everyone's gone anyway.
8 o'clock.
Yeah.
Have there been any converts, like people that come to the gym that have been like, what's this ring doing here? And sort of...
The first tryout we had here, I think we had 4 people who had seen us train come to the tryout.
Yeah.
One of them sticked around for a bit, but eventually stopped training.
It's not for everyone.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, so we were talking before the other guys got here. Because some people were late. But we were talking about, you need a bit of a death wish to do this.
You gotta love to hate yourself.
You pretty much you got to get used to the idea that you're going to be at the bottom of the barrel, and that everyone that's been doing it longer than you is so much better than you. And you get used to the idea that, oh God, I just wish I was dead. I'd so much prefer that.
And then
Not
that's
just
you,
that,
Tom.
it's just, it hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts
You just-
all the time. Your body's always aching.
Some hurts.
Yeah.
You're always a little bit injured. That's the thing you have to get used to. It took me a while to get used to. All right, I'm always going to be a little bit hurt, especially going into matches. Then I get a little bit more hurt and kind of things add on.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing that I noticed that when I came in so I used to do mixed martial arts, and when I came in, same thing with everyone that fights there. Yeah, I'll mess you up. Same thing with theirs. Everyone that comes into a fight, no one comes in 100% healthy, and that's the first thing you have to understand is when everyone wrestles, no one's wrestling at 100%. They can't.
Right.
And if they are, they're not training.
They're not. Yeah. Well, guys train, but they don't train hard. Like I talked to my friend Robbie Eagles. Like,
close personal friend.
And obviously he runs a lot of stuff at PWA, and he was talking about the same thing. Like if you don't train hard, you're not going to be hurt, but you're also not going to be as good as. You're not going to progress as much as other people are.
Yeah, I had a bit of a rant on the show last week. I got some heat for but talking about like you need to be in there training constantly, and there's some people that don't do that. How often, like how many days a week do you guys tend to do it?
Minimum twice.
Yeah.
But I think recently a lot more. Probably for most of us, at least 3.
Yeah,
So we have 2 set classes a week for everyone, but the coaches push you to train by yourself, getting in as much work as you can, and they help us out. Outside of the actual wrestling training, we'll go to the gym. Most of us will train at least 3-4 times a week there.
Yeah.
And on top of that, to our 2 sessions a week, and it's sometimes more. It depends who's available. Because they don't really want us in here by ourselves all the time, because we will probably do something stupid and die.
Tom will do something stupid.
That's fair.
Yeah, and so it's almost like it becomes like a full-time job, even though it's like
it's a really full-time shitty paying job.
It's like having 2 jobs doing this and working. It's
a lifestyle.
That's much better.
It's not a job; it's a lifestyle. Yeah, because it doesn't pay all that well.
Not yet. Not unless you're really good at it.
I think that's the thing that people underestimate, especially in the Australian scene. Like most of these guys, they could have kids, a job, and they're wrestling, a couple times a week. So, people, it's pretty. A lot of people put their lives on hold just to push their wrestling stuff, and try and travel and try and get more experience and try and get bookings. But I think that's something that people need to understand, that a lot of us, this is on top of what we do. We live life and then we have our wrestling life as well. And yeah.
So it's like having 2 lives.
Yeah.
Sort of.
Yeah.
They very much eventually just mesh, because you spend so much time doing it. It just becomes your life almost to some degree.
Yeah. Well, so I mean, at the Rampage Dojo, you guys have some of the best trainers in the country. For my money,
I would argue you have the best.
That's why we're here.
Yeah, and so I'm talking, of course, Jonah Rock, AJ Istria. What's it like training under those guys?
They're the best trainers in the country, in my opinion. They
expect so much.
Yeah.
And you don't want to let them down. They just have a way of making you feel terrible if you're not doing everything great.
Well, it's interesting. Like I find, they're in your corner as long as you put in the effort, and because they're so in your corner and they want you to succeed so badly, it's like you really feel like the more you don't succeed, the more you don't meet their expectations. It's like you're letting them down, and that's so much worse than letting yourself down. Right? Like you're pushing yourself because you want them to be like, yeah, you did real good. You're good at this whole wrestling thing. And when they don't, it's really crushing.
Yeah, I think as well as our 2 main trainers, we also have a lot of other guys who run training who aren't in twice a week as much. But I think someone who doesn't get talked about as much, who comes to training at least twice a week, is Link Barnett. He's in every week, twice a week most of the time.
Almost as an assistant trainer.
Yeah, and I think he is really taught. I know most of us have wrestled him a lot about the little things, little basic things that you wouldn't think about unless it's pointed out to you, especially at this level for all of us. But other guys like Mike Boomer, Gorgeous Greg, Big Willie Gibson, who else?
They often run sessions outside of the normal too, and any time we could, get any tips or help from them, they'd be willing to.
Yeah, we found that a lot of the guys that have the 10 years wrestling, 10 years experience, they're all real happy to help out and make us as good as we can be. So, it's not just, we have Jonah and Istria as our head coaches, and they're fantastic for that, but the guys that don't get talked about, which are basically all of the veterans, they all do a lot to help us out. It's not just the 2. As much as we love our 2 head coaches, there's a lot more that goes into helping us.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, obviously, with on the cards too. I mean, you guys have worked with, you've worked with Jonah and stuff, but there's, you guys are working more with the other veterans in when it comes showtime. Yeah, is it what's the going from training to show? Because you guys are all fairly new. How is it?
It's very daunting to begin with. I mean, everyone deals with it differently. I'm always pretty confident until about half an hour before I go out there and I start getting the shakes. But as soon as I walk out of the curtain, I think I lose all that doubt in myself. But it's just experience to come out there and give it 100% without thinking about what you're doing too much.
Yeah,
I have the I don't know. It's changed before every match, but recently I feel really good going up to the match, and then maybe a minute before my entrance song starts playing, I go, I have no idea what I'm doing.
That's been all of my matches except my debut.
And then I walk out, and then I get in the ring, and I go, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, I've always found that I stress about it for every match that I've had. I'm real stressed about it leading into it, and then about half an hour beforehand, or maybe even 10 minutes beforehand, is when I just start to get really relaxed about it. It's
the opposite.
It's more exactly. I found I stress about it for so long until the point it's you know what, God's will, tuck your chin, pray, do your best. That's all you can ask for.
I feel like a lot of us have had the opportunities to wrestle kind of the best guys in the company.
Yeah. And Australia as well.
And the country.
Running Rob.
Yeah.
Robbie Eagles, Jonah, Israel.
Yeah. So I wanted to get to some of those matches, but first, I mean, Jonah, he's leaving you guys, right?
Yeah, we don't talk about it. We're still in denial.
We're not on kind of we're not Jonah, so we don't want to talk about it too much.
No.
Obviously, it's sad that he's going on to green pastures or whatever you want to say, but and we'll miss him because
it's very much
the amount of knowledge that guy has in his head. He teaches us Lochy, he teaches us Japanese stuff, he teaches us, everything. I think that's something about the WrestleRampage Dojo that is different from other schools, so we learn everything.
Yeah.
From the smaller guys to the big guys, we all learn Lucha, we all learn all this different stuff. It's all, they expect us all to know everything.
Mm-hmm. Right. But what I was getting to was, you feel like with all the veterans that you guys have here and with AJ Istria, I guess, is taking over the head coach, Dojo's flying, yeah. I mean, Rampage is firing on all cylinders, looking at the shows.
It's good moving forward. I think we're moving forward in a good direction. It's just sad to lose, the top of the mountain.
You can't replace someone like that. It's no matter what happens when a top guy like that leaves, there's always a hole, and there's not much you can do about it. As a group, you try and fulfill what he leaves behind, but you can't replace a guy like that.
Yeah.
I'm sad because I'm the only one who hasn't actually got to wrestle him out of the five of us.
Yeah.
In some way or another, Tom's obviously wrestling him next show. Adam wrestled him in the 6-man. You messaged him.
Yeah, me and my daddy have had matches against him. And
I'm the only one who hasn't actually got to wrestle him. And that was something I was hoping to do. And obviously, you never know when...
Pass across again,
Yeah. What's going to happen.
You have to follow him. To wherever he's going and fight him there.
Yeah, track him down. But what?
I just have a picture of Golfis stalking him, waiting to jump out and pop him on.
Yeah, we're just making a point.
Another thing, he's just also a great friend of ours.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's just going to be sad to lose a friend outside of wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, he's not gone yet. We're talking about him like he's in Devon. February 2nd, though, which as people listen to this is tomorrow, the big match. Yeah. You've got the final match in Australia. How's that? Pressure on?
Yeah, Tommy Jocks. Get hyped.
Yes and no. Yeah. The only pressure that I really feel and that I felt leading into it is that, if you're going to wrestle something like that, you want to have a fitting send-off. If it's going to be his last match in Australia.
Yeah.
It's and, he's the best in the country. You want to send him off like someone like that deserves. But, I get in there with someone that, he's the best. He's my friend. There's no real pressure in the sense that, Yeah, I don't know how to explain it. There's no. I don't feel pressure at the moment. Like, I'm stressing about like the things that I always do. Like, I want it to be good. I want people to enjoy it. I want people to be talking about it after it happens. But the idea that I have to go in there and fight Jonah Rock is like, yeah, okay.
It's another day at the office.
Pretty much. I'm happy to do that.
Tommy ego.
Tommy, relax. This isn't the Tommy that we see. This is
Jonah's last match.
Stress out, man. Training stress is different.
Not only Jonah's last match, but you are wrestling Jonah.
Why are you trying to stress me out?
Yeah. It's like the current best heavyweight in the country versus the future heavyweight.
I've had a few people been pushing that to me of like, is it going to be passing of the torch?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be like, it is what it is. Exactly. No chance. But it is what it is. You just get in there and do the best you can.
Yeah. Does it change things? And this will go for everyone because you guys have recently introduced the live streaming gimmick, right? And so it's not just clean. I don't know how to say it.
I just looked.
I don't know. Whatever.
But it's like now not only are you're not just playing to the people in attendance, but there's potentially limitless people watching literally at that moment.
I think I found that's a really exciting thing for us, especially like looking at it from a company perspective of the idea that, I don't know, you start with like 10 people that watch, they tell everyone, they might all get one person extra to watch, that grows, and the idea that could grow to be like a substantial viewer base is like, it's not so much pressure, that's just really exciting. The idea that we can grow WrestleRampage to become so much bigger.
We've had kind of like an on-demand service for a while. We've had Vimeo with all of our shows, but I think watching it live and watching what's happening then and there is something different. And I think last show especially, we had such a, it was an awesome show. Top to bottom was a great card. I think that was such a great way to kind of kick it off. Yeah.
What were you saying?
No. As far as us being on the show, we film it anyway. So as far as having the cameras around, it's nothing different as far as that's concerned. We
Yeah. Do you guys get out of the ring, get off the show, shower, cool down, all that stuff, and then check the hashtag and see if people are talking about it?
I did. I enjoyed it. I went all through the Twitter, just finding all the people that watched on the stream. It was good fun watching everyone pop for little things and everyone. Look, Joni May turn and stuff.
The Joni turn.
The Joni turn. Yeah. People were losing their minds for that.
And then obviously, you had people losing their minds over Golfis and Robbie Eagles.
Match of the year.
People call it a match of the year, and I was like...
Yeah. Well, I was one of those people. It was like a very a late contender. I was like, it's blowing up all my lists. What are you doing to me, Golfis? How was that working Robbie?
I was definitely nervous. I know, Tommy confident over here. I was stressed because I know Rob is probably, one of the best guys in the country. And he's kind of done almost everything that I've wanted to do. And, getting to wrestle a guy like that is an opportunity that not many people, even within PWA and within New South Wales, get the opportunity to do. So... I wanted to go out there and I wanted to wrestle it like it was the last match I was going to have with Robbie Eagles, and I wanted to give it all of my effort, all of my I don't know. It's. I basically said, give me your all. I want to go out there and I want to have the hardest hitting. I want to have the best match possible.
Yeah,
and I think I definitely pushed him physically, and he certainly pushed me physically. I'm looking forward to what we do in the future together.
Yeah, right, because afterwards he sort of put you over, and can we expect a sniper's tag? Because you got the sniper and Skies, it's kind of a natural fit.
Yeah, yeah, exactly, that photo, yeah.
There's a photo being shown around. Oh, right. You look dead. We'll put that as the picture for the
do it
for the podcast.
I'll screen picture everywhere. I want everyone to know.
During that promo, I was legitimately I crawled over to the corner, and
the other day,
yeah, and I just sat there and I almost cried because I was both really upset because I thought that maybe it wasn't good enough and maybe that I didn't do enough, and And I think that's something that you always feel, especially unless you have like that knockout awesome match that you didn't do enough. But also emotionally, kind of where I've come from being at the dojo, and before being at the dojo to being on a stage like I was there against Robbie and having the match that we did. It was a very emotional moment, and I think I proved to him that I have, that I can go and I can put up with the best of them.
Yeah.
So, I'm looking forward to the future. I'll be walking him out to the ring for his match with, Istria, and he'll walk me out to mine. So, yeah, he's definitely a mentor that it's awesome to have on my side.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I wanted to talk to you as well, Tyler. You had a big match with Jonah yourself recently.
Yes. Yeah.
One that involved some blood and some staples and some
light
tubes and all that
bleeding
craziness.
before the bell even rings. What a star!
Yeah,
so
Still
dedicated.
got a big scar on my head.
Can you explain that real quick? Why you were bleeding before Jonah had hit you?
So I came out with a trash can, and just to hype myself up before the match started, I thought I'd hit myself in the head with a trash can lid, forgetting that the screws were still in the lid.
Oh no, you didn't tell the best part. What were you told repeatedly? Not this bin lid. This one. This one has screws. This one doesn't.
I thought I had it the other way around. I wasn't really looking at what I was doing.
Repeatedly told.
Actually, in the head, I've got a big scar. I don't know if you can see it.
I've got a picture of it afterwards.
Yeah. I think I've got a picture on Instagram. But yeah, so that was a crazy match to go through. Just in there with Jonah, throwing himself at me, throw myself back, just take all the punishment, and it was pretty crazy.
It's a whole other level, like when you're adding, like we talked about having a death wish, and it already hurts, and then you're adding in all these crazy foreign objects. Like, how do you prepare for that?
I just don't think about it. I just go out there and just throw yourself into it.
Right.
Yeah.
If you think about how much something's going to hurt
a nasty
before you do it, you just stress yourself out too much.
Thumbtacks, barbed wire, glass tubes, staplers.
Yeah, to be fair, that's
Jonah
probably my favourite match that any of us have had.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The leather belt, everything. I was very sore for a few days.
Yeah, well, because Jonah did the splash from the ladder, right?
Yeah, off the ladder onto me with light tubes.
With light tubes. Yeah, that's...
that was,
Can't teach that.
I had...
Can't practice that one.
I had glass stuck all through my neck and chest, little shards of glass, so I had to... Luckily, none of them really... The referee thought I was going to die because I had a piece of glass out of it. Luckily, it was barely there. It was just sort of sitting there, but...
Right, it wasn't like a David Arquette neck situation.
No. But it was good to know that he was there just in case I was, going to bleed out.
Oh, you had the thumbtacks in your... You had thumbtacks in his boots for the next, 6 months.
Yeah, I got him getting ready for the next show. I put my boots on and I started walking around. I heard, I had tap dancing shoes. Thumbtacks on the bottom of my boots. So that was a lot of fun, but a lot of pain. But I would definitely do it again. Yeah.
Right. Now, there's a word I've heard a couple of times here, and I've heard it thrown around. What's BINGUS? What's the BINGUS, boys? What is this?
Yeah.
I think
It's just to do with me and Corey, man. That's
I think what isn't
that's a
BINGUS?
3-man group.
Yeah.
BINGUS is just a word. The way to explain it is you can just put it anywhere.
Okay.
But the other part of that question is, what is the BINGUS boys?
I think that's more
BINGUS
important.
boys.
I think
That's everything. That's Corndog, Rat Daddy, and Nick Golfis.
I think that's
Supernova,
taking bookings from
Supernova.
2019.
Anyone wants to book a 6-man tag, the BINGUS boys are open for business.
Yeah, we come out to Venga Boys.
Right. Because I've heard it thrown around, and I'm like, what the hell is BINGUS? Because I've heard it in multiple contexts already.
I've got my name tag on my drink bottle here.
Is it BINGUS?
We're just popping each other. We're just...
BINGUS is very special.
BINGUS is anything you want it to be.
It's just
That's what BINGUS is.
It's just a hack.
It's just a word. You just use it.
It's mainly bad though. It's mainly if someone's being called a BINGUS, it's not a good thing.
But
you can call someone, hey BINGUS.
Yeah, that's the thing.
It can be a name. It can be a
I refer-
compliment.
I don't know if it's a
I was
compliment.
going to say, come on, man, that's kind of a big question. What is Bingus?
Yeah.
Aren't we all Bingus in a way? Is it Bingus inside the soul?
say you're Bingus.
That's what we want.
Yeah.
You know, Bingus Boys is trying to start a Bingus nation.
We are what we are.
Well, it's what I do though. I come with the big questions.
Yeah, that's true.
Big questions
We don't even know the answer to it.
We're getting existential, man. We don't need to talk about
He
it.
started with Roy's Rat Daddy, but this is one. And next level.
Oh, that's next level.
Elevation in this podcast. Big match
What
feel.
a story.
We'll bring it back to one that I think we can all answer. Is Corey the best looking man in Australian wrestling?
Yes.
Australian wrestling.
Thank you.
No, Corey, please fill us in.
Who do you think like challenges your crown of beauty?
In Australia, who have you seen?
You can't see the offended look on his face. He's so upset at the idea that there's anyone.
but so
When you
beautiful.
show,
at
I'd
the
love to
same
see
time.
Corey Adams and Ricky South.
Yeah,
That's a couple of
Yeah.
beautiful boys.
Feel like you got a built-in feud there with the Babes, right? I mean, that's their name. They call themselves the Babes.
Oh,
He's way up. He's way up.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It's like, unless he's their de facto god.
He bows. He bowed before the true babe.
Yeah, exactly.
I think a few people are in my eyes challenge Adams. I think Matt Diamond underrated beauty.
Oh,
Personally, I think he's
There you go.
yeah. But not as beautiful as Corey.
His wrestling is a thing of beauty.
Oh yeah, and I
But
think in the world, Drew
Is
Parker.
his face as pretty as that? Oh, no, to be fair, he
We
did
keep
get
on
that.
ruining it.
Yeah, true.
You're trying.
Actually,
I'm trying.
he has
Not the face.
Punch to the
unfortunately.
nose every now and then, but
Yeah, unfortunately, he
They're trying.
has a really long history of getting punched in the nose.
He has a bad track
during
record.
Getting hit in the face.
At
Yeah.
training, he's just constantly hit in the face.
by everyone.
You'll start wearing like one of the face shield
one of the
gimmicks.
face masks.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
Dashing Corey Adams.
He's better than Dashing.
how do you turn being the Heartthrob, the best looking man in wrestling? How do you turn that into something that people cheer for? Like it's because
I was scared people wouldn't cheer for it. But then I hit people with a chair and they cheered for me. And then it's just went on from that, so that was always good.
Beat up the ugly people, wouldn't they?
Yeah. People like attractive.
people like attractive people.
Ladies like attractive.
I think that's interesting, right? There's a lot of ladies in the Rampage crowd, which is great.
It's useful for him.
Yeah, it helps when you want to
Especially.
turn the good-looking guy face. That's
Exactly right.
So what have we got on the table for 2019? What's the plans? Let's go around.
Plans or goals?
Plans, goals,
Plans.
all of it.
Plans. I
Your
don't know.
goals list is gonna never stop.
I don't think
That's a good thing, though.
It is, but I mean,
I think plans. I don't know if many of us have.
Wrestle more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
More
That's
matches more.
I think that's the main
Yeah,
thing.
take shows,
Rampage bigger.
take bookings.
Yeah. Take WrestleRampage to the next level.
Yeah,
Take some interstate
Sure.
bookings.
I think that's
Get our names out there.
Anyway, we have. I think all of us have aspirations to start taking more bookings interstate. I had a friend. So I was in the. I'm dropping this. Don't judge me. I was in the LA dojo at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
Tommy Hollywood.
It's a question for the solo interview.
Okay.
I think,
Yeah. So I was there and I made a couple of good friends and one of them recently said on a podcast that he was on that he wanted to wrestle me and obviously he wants to wrestle in the US to save that money for the flights, I understand. But Kurt Stallion, he's managed to wrestle for Ring of Honor. He's been around a little bit. He's a really prominent indie wrestler at the moment. He's very, very talented. And that's really one of my plans. And hopefully by the end of the year, that would be something I could make happen. That's for me personally.
Right.
Get to wrestle someone that I know and like and appreciate that has asked to wrestle me. But I think mostly and more realistically for all of us, I think we can agree is just to take more bookings around Australia.
Yeah.
Right.
That's I think taking Rampage, I don't think it gets recognised as much as it should.
Definitely.
Like, everyone's looking at PWA, everyone's looking at MCW.
MCW is the big
And I
one
think,
at the moment.
yeah. And obviously EPW's had a little bit of hype with
Yeah.
the lad match and all those matches between Street Gang Hooligans and Untouchables. But I think taking Rampage to the next level is something that we all feel that this year could be the year that people start recognising, all right, this is the best. This is the best wrestling promotion in the country. And that has all Australian wrestlers, basically. You know, there's no internationals going on. There's, you know, none of that. It's all about Australian wrestling and pushing Australian wrestling to the forefront.
Also, it's mainly Adelaide wrestlers as well.
Yeah.
So not that that matters to the rest of Australia, but that means something to us.
Yeah, we usually have maybe a couple of
interstate crowds. Yeah, just a couple.
Yeah.
We've been lucky
the
to
regulars that
be
we have,
able
like
to
the Eagles.
produce enough like talent through the dojo to be like, you know,
Sustainable.
we can run a show with just our guys, but at the same time we have guys like Chris Weiss, Robbie Eagles, and Rufio's a big one for us, that kind of feel like they're part of the family too.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And from everywhere, from guys that come in from different promotions, something that we take pride in is the fact that like our locker room is very different to most backstage.
Right.
Like we all get along.
We're a family.
We're all friends.
We're all good friends. We all, you know, get along very well with like the older guys, the newer guys. It all flows very, very nicely, and that's very different from anywhere else in the country.
Yeah, like Fun Time Phil when he was over here. When was that?
No, good brother.
A couple months ago.
Yeah. Was it like August or October or something?
Something like that.
It was August, I think.
He said that the locker room was nothing like he'd experienced anywhere in the country or in Melbourne, or, you know, and obviously he's been in MCW doing all the stuff in Melbourne, and that's, you know, he said it was like a family atmosphere,
Right.
like backstage, like that everyone gets along,
and we take pride in that.
You know?
Yeah.
That's going to help pushing it to the next level, right? Like if everyone's on, like you hear stories about like ECW and stuff, everyone's on the same page. Like there's no.
It's just a matter of getting the right kind of attention.
Yeah.
Like making sure that people are watching. And that's something like Cling is like, for as much as it sounds weird and it's like nobody really knows what it is, it's like, you know what? It's still a means of getting eyes on our product.
Yeah. I think as a fan, it's awesome.
Yeah. And having said that, it's like, I think there's people in WrestleRampage that have the reputation that carries through the country, like, you know, Jonah, Istria, people like Slater. Slater's a big one. People know who they are. People know that they're phenomenal. They're three of the best wrestlers in the country. But that doesn't seem to carry over to some of the other guys that don't get that kind of recognition. Guys like Greg Graham.
Yeah.
He was a legitimate champion. He was absolutely good enough to be champion and be like. And if you look at the list of Australian national champions, his name is not out of place at all.
And there haven't been many.
There's been 14 now, I think, including double reigns.
So
I think there's been about 14 champions.
So maybe 10 individual.
Maybe 10 people.
Yeah.
And there are some, you know, legendary names in Australian wrestling on that list, and the fact that if I go to Melbourne or Sydney, I would be shocked if people knew who Greg Graham was, and I think that's a shame because he is genuinely one of the best in Australia.
There's even like you look at cruiserweight guys like Mike Boomer, Link Barnett, that, you know, they've been interstate and they've obviously wrestled in New Zealand for a long time, but, you know, they're not getting the recognition. People aren't seeing, you know. Yeah, I think that's something that is disrespect.
It's one of the things that I want to try to rectify here. Like Australian wrestling history, like there's sort of like a real big gap in the like documents from like the golden era when, you know, it was on TV and stuff to like the early mid 2000s. There's nothing.
You know, you can thank someone like Hartley Jackson for bringing that back at all. That's like, you know, the head of our dojo. We were lucky enough to have him back recently and train with him. But, you know, you thank people like that for bringing it back and giving us a chance to carry it further. But one of the names that I brought up briefly was AJ Istria, and it's like he
criminally underrated. Yeah.
People seem to understand that he's a great wrestler, but they don't book him everywhere, and I think that is borderline criminal.
Yeah,
because he should be everywhere.
I felt bad going to MCW knowing that it wasn't him, that it should have been him against Slacks. I mean, I was thankful that I got to go over there, but
having AJ Istria is a guy that I think should be booked in every major promotion in the country, and he would be an asset to every wrestling promotion. Like, if he has to take someone's spot, so be it. He's better than whoever is wrestling on that show ahead of him. He's probably better than.
Right.
And the thing is, like, obviously he does like the shoot style stuff now, but he has the ability to do such a range of stuff.
He's a guy that can do anything.
Yeah,
anything you ask him to do.
Never seen him physically struggle to do anything before.
Yeah, he's a beast.
He's just a phenomenal athlete.
He is a freak of nature.
Yeah.
Probably the best lucha wrestler I've seen come through those doors.
His background in gymnastics, definitely.
And he doesn't do it. That's something he does is something that
he has a background in gymnastics? I didn't even know this.
Gymnastics, jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, see, I knew the martial arts stuff.
His brother's
his brother was a Commonwealth Games gold medalist.
I think so. I think he's in Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
Oh, I wouldn't be able to tell you, but you know, his whole family seems to be they're freakishly athletic.
That's crazy. But yeah, so back to 2019. So the goal is to push Rampage, get to that next level, and I think it starts as people listen to this tomorrow.
Yeah.
February 2. I'll let you guys take. I'm not going to ask you for all your socials. I'll put them in the. I'll put them in the show notes for people that are listening. But yeah, if you want to, now's the chance to plug the show. What's going on?
Well, you have two of the most important matches that we can have is we've got the Australian national title defence, AJ Estrella versus Robbie Eagles. For anyone that saw their last match, it was fantastic.
Yes.
I would be shocked if this didn't top that considerably.
Both incredible, yeah.
There's
no way it can be
two of the
fantastic.
top 5 wrestlers in Australia. There's no way for it to be bad.
Yeah, and before they were kind of fighting for who's going to be that next guy. Exactly. And now they're fighting for the title. Yeah.
And then obviously the big one is you have Jonah Rock's last match in Australia.
Yeah.
And I think that he has earned the right to have all eyes on him for this last match.
100%.
Yeah. Absolutely. So if you're in Adelaide, get down to
Waterside Workers.
In
Port Adelaide.
Port
and
Adelaide.
If you're not in Adelaide or can't come to the show, pre-order the Clang. Yeah.
And I think it's like $9.99, right?
Yeah. It's the Mushroom show.
I think that's pretty reasonable for something that should be one of the best shows in Australia.
Yeah. Or you can buy the show afterwards. You can rent it for $5 on Vimeo. Or you can buy it and own it for $10.
Yeah. And people should be out there following WrestleRampage on the Twitter, on the Facebook, all these places. Yeah. Thanks so much for bringing me into the dojo, guys, and letting me talk to you all.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having us.
So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. All of the WrestleRampage young boys. Tyler Trench, Corndog. I don't know what this Corndog thing is. I'm very curious to see what this Corndog thing is. It may be a gimmick that needs as much explanation as Rat Daddy. Rat Daddy was there, of course. Heartthrob Corey Adams. The Sniper Nick Golfis. And the Prodigy Tommy Knight, who of course has that last match with Jonah this weekend. Got to get around it. But before we get to what's happening this weekend, I also want to take a quick look at other Aussie Grappler interviews that you can listen to this week. Carlo Cannon stopped by the On the Turnbuckle studios to have a chat with our good friends over there at On the Turnbuckle. I haven't had a listen to the interview yet as I record this, but I'm very much looking forward. Carlo is an absolute legend. And his school is amazing and pumping out incredible talent. So I'm really looking forward to hearing some of the stories that Carlo has for the On the Turnbuckle guys. Meanwhile, JXT on Talk and Stick has Jimmy fucking Havoc on the show in what I'm fairly sure is the longest interview Jimmy Havoc gave while he was in the country. Over on Wrestle Radio Australia, Todd Eastman there sat down with Chris Basso to talk shop for about an hour, so that's going to be one to look out for as well. Meanwhile, over on the Wilfred Watchers podcast, which is a part of the Social Suplex Network that you can subscribe to on all good podcast players, Candy Lee made an appearance talking about New Zealand wrestling. So Candy Lee on Wilfred Watchers, Carlo Cannon on the Turnbuckle, JXT with Jimmy fucking Havoc, Chris Basso on Wrestle Radio Australia. What a week! I had 5 guys on my show. That's like 10 Aussie Grappler interviews that you can listen to this week. What an incredible time it is to be an Australian wrestling fan. And let's take a look at what's happening this weekend near you, starting across the pond in New Zealand. On Saturday, Impact Pro Wrestling are holding tryouts. So if you are in the area and want to try your hand at pro wrestling with the group responsible for training the likes of Dakota Kai, Toa Hanare, TK Cooper, and more, head to their Facebook for details on how you can get in on that one. Also on Saturday, Asylum Pro Wrestling in Christchurch are holding Episode 2, The First Crusade at Papahu YMCA. Former APW champion Jax Casey returns to action. Rough Guts Roddy Gunn makes his first appearance in an Asylum Pro ring. Will Power and Hooligan Marcus Cool are also announced as being on the card. Tickets start at $10 for this one. Back home in Australia, in the capital of the country, ICW present Insanity at the Belconnen Theatre in Canberra. Sam Driver defends his Canberra Championship against Mike Kelly. Nix Jade and Gimpy face off in a Fight or Fired match, not sure what that means. And the World Heavyweight title is on the line when challenger Chris Shadows gets in the ring with Wrath. Tickets for this one are $10. Up in Queensland, AWA Grindhouse presents The Purge Rebirth, live from the Zoo. They will hold the Zoo. That always confuses me, man. I think the Zoo is a nightclub. I don't think it's an actual zoo. You're not going to piss off the lions with the body slams. There's not going to be a run-in from a gorilla. It's a nightclub called the Zoo. And they will hold their annual Purge Hardcore Rumble. New AWA Tag Champs, Divine Darkness, Sorrow and Adonis will be defending their titles against mystery challengers. Smashface Mitch McCarthy takes on Mr. Queensland Wrestling Rip Riley, and Jake Nova defends his AWA Heavyweight Championship against Rufio. Tickets are $30 for that one. Down in New South Wales on Saturday, Suplex are hosting Chapter 7 Extinction live at East Cessnock Bowling Club. B-Boy and the Retro Kid Bobby Bishop take on the team of Rotten, the Brawler, and Jack Myhell. Jack Payne defends the heavyweight title against Lee Morrow, and the Suplex Junior heavyweight title is on the line as Jake Gibson faces off against the Jurassic Punk Sid Parker. All this and much, much more. Tickets start at $13. Also on Saturday, Future Wrestling Australia present The Rise of the Future at Dural Country Club. The tag titles are on the line as Jude the Dude London and Big Fudge defend against Jax Jordan and Donnie Mako. Caesar and Drew Fulton face off in Mercury Championship Tournament semi-finals. Belle Pierce goes one-on-one with Jasmine Vittora. 5-Star Flash has an unsanctioned match against his masked attacker, but that's not all. He has also promised an announcement which will shake FWA to its foundations, so that's one to pay attention to. JXT takes on Silvio Milano. Matty Wahlberg defends his FWA Heavyweight Championship against Sam Osborne, who was, of course, my New South Wales pick for wrestlers you may not have heard of, but should probably pay attention to in 2019 because they wrestle good and do other stuff good too. Go back and listen to that one. It came out on New Year's Day. Very easy to find. The women's title is also on the line in 4-way action with Tar Lee, Kingsley, and Xena challenging for Savannah Summers' throne. And in the main event, Ricky South, with Nikki Van Blair at his side, looks to conquer the Impact Wrestling superstar, Eli Drake. Dummy. Yeah. Tickets for this one start at $10, and on any other weekend across this country, this would be my pick for show of the weekend, but there are some big ones happening this weekend. Over in Western Australia, All Action Wrestling are live Saturday night on the road to their anniversary show at the Baldivis Recreation Centre. Roxy Riot is taking on Arctic Crush. Andrew Carter takes on Ajax. Felix Young defends the No Limits Championship. He is the longest reigning No Limits champion. I think he's on par with Pete Dunne for how long he's held that title. He's defending that against Cody York. You got to think he will do anything to hold on to that. Seth Kincaid puts his heavyweight title on the line against Warship. And the Australian sensation Craven is set to respond to Mecha Wolf 450. Much, much more happening on this one. Tickets start at just $5. Meanwhile, also in Perth, EPW make their return for the year with Hot Summer's Night. That takes place Saturday night at Gate 1 in Claremont. We did a preview episode yesterday with Eric Mack. You can take a listen to that one now. Tyler Jacobs takes on the Australian sensation Craven. The Headhunters face off with Dan Moore and Jonathan Wimbledon. Logan Gray goes one-on-one with Kyle Steria. Big Rig Scotty Ryan and Julian Ward take on the Untouchables. The child star Taylor King, we touched on it. He returns from injury to face off with gorgeous Gary Schmidt in a delayed final to the 2018 EPW Invitational Tournament. The Don, Michael Morleone, takes on the Free Spirit Hayden Zenith in a Claremont street fight. And EPW champion, the real wrestler, the Grand Slam champion, the man single-handedly bringing real wrestling back to every state and territory in this fine country, with his Gavin vs. Australia tour, Gavin McGavin defends his EPW title against the rapscallion Mick Moretti. It's going to be a huge match. It's EPW's first show back for the year. It's going to be sure to be a big one. Tickets start at $15 for that one. Down in Victoria, on Saturday night in Melbourne, NAW are live at the NAW Arena in Albion. Jason Cole defends the Pure title against Gore. Tag Gold is on the line when Raw Beef defend against Retro Revolution. And Jeremy Smacks challenges for Jake Wilder's NAW South Pacific title. All this and more. Tickets start at $15. Meanwhile, across town, at the Thornbury Theatre, MCW present Uprising. We did a preview for this one as well. You can go back in the archives and listen to it. It took place yesterday. We see the return of Mad Mikey Nichols taking on JK Moody, who promises to conquer Australian wrestling in 2019. Jamie and I speculated as to what would happen with the tag team champions, and the Loose and Reckless have confirmed this morning they are taking on Jet, Ruka, and Tyson Baxter, the new team, the Mile High Club. I don't know if that's what they're calling themselves in Melbourne City Wrestling, but either way, very much looking forward to this incredible high-flying matchup. Indy Hartwell and Avery finally get their hands on each other after months of back and forths between the two. Richie Taylor and Mike Burr face off in what is sure to be a cracker, and of course, the main event. Brother vs. brother, Tome vs. Stevie. Is Stevie better? What do we think? Go back and listen. You can find out. We'll find out this weekend for sure. Gino Gambino and Slex are set for a contract signing as well, and for their upcoming match. Plenty more to be announced, I'm sure. This will be a big one. Remaining tickets are $30. Speaking of big ones, the two big boys in South Australia, Riot City Wrestling, WrestleRampage, both have their first shows of 2019 this weekend, starting with Riot City Reanimated 14 at the HQ complex in the heart of the city's nightlife on Hindley Street. Kit Condor takes on the returning Tony Toro. Rocky Monero gets his chance to avenge his loss at RCW 200 when he takes on Adam Brooks once more. The Rude Ones and Gods and Monsters have a rubber match with each team holding a victory over the other. Kurt Barron, Stephen Miller, Dean Brady, and Katie Trey all look to get a win in four-way action to start the year on the right foot. Savannah Summers and Blair Alexis face off. The Pereira defend their tag team titles against the Armstrongs, and Zach Sabbath looks to fend off Chris Basso to retain his RCW heavyweight title in their third encounter. This is going to be a big one. Tickets are $25, and it is an 18-plus event. Meanwhile, on Saturday, WrestleRampage present Never Surrender from the Waterside Workers in Port Adelaide. This one will be streaming out live on Clean for anyone who can't attend. It's a must-watch event. Robbie Hart takes on Corndog. What is a Corndog? Let's find out. Mike Boomer and Rat Daddy go one-on-one. Einar Ironside looks to feed his inner Fenrir in a six-pack challenge match with Dean Valente, Nick Golfis, Link Barnett, Corey Adams, and Kazza and Crow. That's a huge one. AJ Istria makes his first defense of the Australian national title against Robbie Eagles, and Jonah Rock has his last match in the country taking on the Prodigy Tommy Knight. Can't miss this one. Tickets start at $15. And that does it. If you want to hear what we thought about the Riot City Wrestling and WrestleRampage cards, we did a preview show for that one yesterday as well. 4 shows yesterday, including the View from the WWE Universe. You guys are spoiled. And I am crazy. But here it is. Before we close out the show, I do want to just touch on something quickly. There was a bit of drama last week around... So there's a group on Facebook called the B Plus Players Group, with which I was loosely aligned. Very, very loosely. And I guess they got upset at me pointing out that it was a loose alliance. So they kicked me out of the group after I tried to post that. Now, the whole thing was they made a new rule that kind of came up out of nowhere after I launched the Patreon, and I stated very clearly, just for the sake of, I didn't want people funding me thinking they were funding the B Plus Players Group, right? So I launched a Patreon, and I put it out there, and we've had some very kind backers who have come through. You guys can get around it at patreon.com/thebplus. And I didn't want any confusion. I didn't want people in the group thinking that this was a Patreon for the group, right? So I made it very clear we are not linked, right? Like, I have nothing to do with their decision making. They have nothing to do with my decision making. Any money that comes to me goes back into this podcast. Any money that goes to them, I don't know what they do with any money they make from the group, because I know they used to sell shirts and stuff. I don't know if they do that anymore. I don't know, right? That's how loosely linked we are. I was a member of the group. I met some of the guys in the group. And when we started, because of the similar name, I reached out of, courtesy and was like, hey guys, I'm starting a podcast. I met some of the guys in the group. We're thinking of calling it the B Plus Podcast. I probably should have explained myself better there. It wasn't a play off the B Plus Players Club, right? Which was what the group was called at the time, the B Plus Players Club. I think now it's just called the B Plus Players. But it was more a play on, of course, Daniel Bryan. Triple H told Daniel Bryan he was a B Plus player. And to me, I was like, if Daniel Bryan is B Plus at wrestling, I want to be B Plus at whatever I do. I'm launching this podcast. I want it to be a B Plus podcast, right? And it's even been pointed out to me, and this was probably a subconscious thing. I came into this with the idea of having a positivity podcast, right? I take the idea from Tights and Fights. I take the idea from Sam Roberts, who likes to be a fan and just build up the things he's a fan of. And that's what I want to do as well. And so B plus, be positive, right? There's all these meanings that go into it. And it was not stealing a name from a group sort of situation at all. But because of the similar name, I thought I'd reach out. I was like, hey, maybe we can align. Maybe we can do something. I then ended up being aligned with the 434 for a very short period of time, and that didn't work out for entirely different reasons. But the guys were still keen to let me, post the podcasts in the group. Very quickly, I started doing more and more podcasts, and it became clear that, we didn't want to spam the group. So I dropped back to only posting once a week. I started posting just the Aussie Grapps content, just what I consider our flagship show, the most relevant show, the show that I really want the most eyes on, the Aussie Grapps show. After I denied affiliation with the group, they got upset. Understandably so. I guess the communication wasn't quite there. That's on me. That's my bad. I apologize. I didn't mean to offend anyone by denouncing affiliation. I thought I was just stating the facts as I saw them. That there was no official link. There was no money going to be shared. If someone was funding me, they're not funding this group. Anyway, they made a new rule where we could not advertise our things. I saw other people still advertising their things, and I thought, you know what? I've abided by this rule. Other people haven't. Fuck it. I'm going to post this podcast that I did with Aman, because the reason for their rule is we're not here for people to sell shit. We're here for people to talk about wrestling. And that's what I do on a daily basis here. I talk about wrestling. I talk about the things I love. I build up the things I love. And there's this kid coming from Malaysia, moving to this country, who I believe needs as many eyes on him as he can possibly get. So I wanted to put that out there. And so I did. And they got very upset that I did that, and they kicked me out of the group, which is fine. It's their group, it's their prerogative. But at the end of the day, I want there to be places online where everyone involved in this Australian wrestling community can go and share whatever it is they're working on, whether it's art by MRF, who we are a big fan of, and who, for personal reasons, was unable to make art for this week's episode, but he is going to continue to make art for these episodes for the B Plus podcast. We want to support Art by MRF. We want him to have an avenue to share all of his things. We want to support the Potato and Receipt. We want to support Jamie Apps Media. We want to support PWA, MCW, Wrestling Go, all the way down the line. Suplex Wrestling, everyone. We want everyone to be able to share their stuff. Now, they actually went and shared some personal messages that I had back and forth with the admins, and they didn't share the whole thing. They left out some very key messages where I sort of had my say in what was happening, and they left those out. So I normally don't do this because I don't engage in bullshit, right? I engage in positivity. I want to build everything up, but just for the sake of clearing my name, and so that, because their messages, it made it look like I was against people sharing things and I was bitter, like other people do it, why can't... No, it was not like that at all. I was very clear in communicating my intent with these guys, and I tried at every step of the way. And I hate that it had to come down to this, but they shared personal messages. Thank you very much to the kind listeners. A couple of you sent me messages throughout the week showing me, hey, look, these guys are kind of trashing you in their group, calling me a cunt and stuff. I am not. Whatever. I'm just going to let the messages speak for themselves. I'm going to put the full, unedited conversations for every single chat I ever had with the admins of this group. I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it because they put my name on blast and acted like I had done something wrong. All I want to do is build Aussie wrestling. That's all I want to do. And to that token, I am starting a group called the Australian Wrestling Community, where you are free to like, share, discuss, do whatever you want to do with your wrestling-related endeavors. We've got, guys like Jimmy is Pro Wrestling, who does wrestling vlogs, who is being affected by this new rule in that group. The guys at Future Wrestling Australia, the guys at Suplex, the guys at Ringside Addiction, all these people share their stuff in this group, and now all of a sudden, because I denounced affiliation, everyone's being punished, and I don't want that. That's not what I want. I want a place where everyone can share the stuff they're working on that builds up Aussie wrestling, and so the Australian Wrestling Community group on Facebook will do that. Invites are going out today to everyone who likes this page. If you want to join the group, just search Australian Wrestling Community on Facebook, hit that join button, you will be approved. Our only rule there is don't be a dick, and we're going to institute a 24-hour spoiler rule for Raw and SmackDown because people are at work when those shows are on. Other than that, we want you to do what you can to be positive, to talk about Aussie wrestling, to build it up. Don't be a dick, no bullying and stuff, like that goes without saying, and we're going to be keeping an eye on that. But at the end of the day, this is going to be a place where Aussie wrestlers, Aussie wrestling fans, and Aussie wrestling fan creators like myself, like Art by MRF and stuff, can go and share and build Aussie wrestling, build indie wrestling. That's what we want to do. We want to build this thing up. We don't want to, it's like power hungry, like the whole thing with B Plus Players Group, there's a whole backstory there, and it's too much. I don't want the bullshit. I just want a positive place. So that's what I'm doing. Australian Wrestling Community. Seek it out. If you didn't get an invite, I apologize. Like the page. You would have gotten an invite if you liked the page. So I'm sending out invites for that group, and we are going to, On the Turnbuckle boys are going to be in there sharing their stuff. I'm going to invite Wrestle Radio Australia. Everyone is free to come and talk Aussie wrestling in a positive way that builds everyone up and respects the wrestlers and respects the craft. And that's what we want to do. That's what we want to do here at the B+. If you want to be a part of that mission, of course, you can. Best way to support us is to check out our sponsors. We have a new sponsor you will have heard about today in the Muscle Hustle. And if you click the link in the show notes, you can download the app and you can get some goodies by entering the code the B+, and that'll give you a leg up over the competition. Of course, our other sponsors, Threadbox, All Aussie Travelers, you guys have heard about them. Best way to support us is to check them out, or if you want to support us directly, it's patreon.com/the B+. Every cent that goes in goes to helping me build this platform and get Aussie wrestling out there for the world, because that's what we want to do. We want to watch global, support local. If you're in with that, thank you so much. Like, share, subscribe, give us a 5-star review if you like what we do. Sorry for the tea. Thank you so much for listening.
Hold one! Arm drag! You're not doing this. Get out. Let me tell you a personal story about Vince McMahon. You just made the list. Oh my God!
So, no speak English.
Dummy! Goodbye and good night. Hold two! Arm bar!
This is the worst town I've ever been in.
It's still real to me, damn it! Dummy! Hold three! The moss covered!